The crimson sands of Velara stretched endlessly beneath twin suns, where the warrior caste of the Kethmori had ruled for 3 millennia. Captain Jake Morrison crouched behind twisted metal wreckage, his rifle's energy cell blinking red in warning. The diplomatic mission had gone wrong the moment they landed. Around him lay the remains of his squad, their bodies testament to the savage efficiency of Kethmori bladework. The aliens stood nearly 8 feet tall, their chitinous armor gleaming like obsidian beneath the harsh light. They moved with predatory grace, each one a living weapon honed by centuries of warfare. The sound of approaching footsteps made Jake tighten his grip on his weapon. Through the smoke, he saw her stumbling toward his position. She was different from the others, smaller, her midnight blue carapace bearing intricate silver markings that seemed to pulse with their own light. Blood seeped from multiple wounds, and she clutched the remains of what had once been an elegant spear. Behind her came 3 massive warriors, their eyes burning with bloodlust. They spoke in their guttural tongue, words Jake couldn't understand, but whose meaning was clear enough. They were hunting her. The female collapsed just meters from his hiding spot, her breathing labored. The broken spear rolled from her grasp, its crystalline head shattered, its shaft splintered. She looked up at Jake with eyes like liquid starlight, and in them he saw something he hadn't expected: resignation. The pursuing warriors rounded the wreckage, their weapons raised. The largest of them spoke, his voice dripping with contempt as he gestured at the fallen female. Jake didn't need a translator to understand the cruelty in those words. Something primal stirred within him. His grandmother's voice echoed in his. Memory. Stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves, boy. That's what makes us human. Without thinking, Jake stepped from cover. The warriors turned toward him, surprised by his sudden appearance. He raised his rifle, but the energy cell finally died with a pathetic whine. The weapon was useless. The lead warrior laughed, a sound like grinding stone. He said something to his companions, and they spread out to flank the human. Jake's eyes fell on the broken spear beside the female warrior. The shaft was still solid near the base, the metal warm to his touch as he lifted it. The Kethmori warrior charged with inhuman speed, his blade arm raised to strike. Jake met him halfway. Broken spear spinning in his hands. He had trained with staves in his youth, but this was different. The weapon felt alive, responding to his movements with an eagerness that surprised him. The alien's blade scraped against the spear's shaft, sending sparks flying. Jake pivoted, using the warrior's momentum against him, and drove the jagged end of the weapon into the gap between armor plates. Dark ichor sprayed across the sand as the warrior fell. The other 2 attacked simultaneously. Jake found himself moving with fluid precision, the broken spear becoming an extension of his will. He blocked, parried, and struck with techniques he had never learned, knowledge flowing into his mind from some unknown source. When the last warrior fell, Jake stood panting in the sudden silence. The spear had grown warm in his hands, its metal surface now bearing faint golden veins that hadn't been there before. He turned to check on the female warrior, expecting to find her grateful or at least acknowledging his help. Instead, she stared at him in absolute shock, her starlight eyes wide with what could only be described as terror. She spoke in heavily accented standard, her voice barely above a whisper. You cannot have done this thing. The spear of Kamer chooses only once in a generation. No outlander has ever been marked. Jake looked down at the weapon in his hands. The golden veins pulsed brighter now, and he could feel a strange warmth spreading up his arms. What are you talking about? The female struggled to her feet, her wounds forgotten. I am Nira, last daughter of the Kaimar bloodline. That spear has been in my family for 40 generations. It was broken in honorable combat, its power spent. She gestured at the golden veins. Yet it awakens for you. More Kethmori warriors appeared on the horizon, their war cries echoing across the desert. But these were different. They carried banners Jake hadn't seen before, and they moved with purpose rather than bloodlust. Nira noticed his confusion. The Kaimor Guard, they come because the spear calls to them. She studied Jake's face with growing amazement. By the ancient laws, you are now my chosen champion, my protector, my ... She struggled with the concept and standard. My heart sworn. Jake felt the weight of alien traditions he didn't understand settling on his shoulders like a mantle. I just picked up a broken stick to help someone in trouble. I don't know anything about your customs or prophecies. The approaching warriors had formed a wide circle around them, their weapons lowered but ready. Their leader, an ancient Kethmori, whose scars told stories of 100 battles, stepped forward. He spoke in their native tongue, his words carrying the weight of ritual.nira, translated, her voice filled with wonder. He says the spear of Kaimar has chosen its new master, that you, an outlander, now carry the blessing of the war spirits. She paused, and added softly, he asks if you will accept the responsibility of protecting the last daughter of a dying house. Jake looked at the broken spear in his hands, feeling the pulse of alien power running through the metal. He thought of his dead squad, of the mission that had brought him to this strange world, of the simple human impulse that had made him act when another being needed help. The Kethmori warriors waited in perfect silence. Nira watched him with eyes that held both hope and fear. In the distance, the twin suns cast long shadows across the crimson sands. Jake squared his shoulders and met the ancient warrior's gaze. Tell him I accept. The spear flared with golden light, its power singing through his bones like music from a distant star. Around them, the Kethmori warriors raised their weapons in salute, their voices joining in an ancient war song that had welcomed champions for 3,000 years. Jake Morrison, human soldier and reluctant hero, had become something more than he ever imagined possible. And somewhere in the depths of space, other worlds waited for the legend that was about to begin. Chat controls Sonnet 4.